All right, well, we'll see if we get anyone to join us on Zoom. When you guys are ready, you can lie down on your back. We'll start with some spinal mobility supine. So we are starting supine. You can lie down on your back. If it feels good to just be in a shape like Shavasana for a breath or two, you can certainly do that. Maybe sort of transition from whatever you were doing into this class by taking a deep breath in and then opening your mouth and exhaling. And you might even take a few breaths to just notice your breath, to be as focused as you can, to start to shut out the external stimuli, especially if you're home. So if you're home, you're ignoring the pets, ignoring everything except this practice for now, as long as you want to do it. All right, and then as you are ready, bend your knees, bring your feet to the ground. And I typically start with a pelvic tuck, which turns into something like going towards bridge and then lowering down out of it, so spinal articulation. But I think it's really important to pay attention to your own spine. So if you notice, if your inclination is to take your knees side to side first, then that's good information that your spine wants to rotate before it articulates. So go ahead and take about, let's say, 6 breaths, either lifting and lowering your spine or taking your knees side to side. So one of those things will feel, but go slowly. So see if you can feel each vertebra touch the ground. If articulating through your spine is too much to lift your spine all the way up, just work at the low back first and then work up to the mid back. And if you're starting out with a spinal twist, again, pay attention to how much you're moving side to side and maybe start with your feet wide so you'll have a sort of limited rotation. And then whatever you do for the 6 first breaths, you will sort of end that after 6 breaths and move on to the second. So if you started with lifting your spine up and down, now you'll move into a twist. And if you started with a twist, then you'll move into spinal articulation. And as you take these preliminary moves, hopefully you're also taking time to notice what else is happening in your body. So the primary thing you're working on right now is your spine. However, you may notice that your shoulders or your chest feel tight. You may not even notice your breathing, which is usually a good sign that it's happening in a healthy way. But if you don't automatically notice your breathing, take some attention there. Without necessarily changing it, just feel what it's like to inhale completely and feel what it's like to exhale completely. Hi, lots of room. I can scoot back if you want to be more in this direction. And I think everybody in this room knows, and I imagine that everybody online knows that these yoga classes, all these group fitness classes are ending at the end of October here at the Sporting Club. And you guys may also know that a few of us Sporting Club yoga bar group fitness teachers are moving to space in Wynwood. The space is called Movement RX. And we'll all be sort of independent contractors for those classes. So more information about that later. But for now, hopefully you have gotten that spinal articulation up and down, and hopefully you've gotten that spinal rotation. And now we're gonna move on to the upper body by staying in that position where your feet are on the ground and your knees are bent, but you're gonna take your hands behind your head and exhale to lift your head and your chest, and inhale to lower. As you move your upper back, pay attention that your low back stays long. So your lumbar spine is very light on the ground. And breathing as slowly as you can, exhale to lift, pause at the top, inhale softly lower down. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. We'll lift this time and stay up, so exhale to lift. Take a breath in at the top. Exhale to twist to one side. Inhale back to center. So you're still in spinal articulation. Yep. And then when you're done with that, you're moving the rotation. So we're going to try to separate out spinal articulation and rotation completely. And the next time you're at center, lower your head and chest down. Extend your left leg, bring your right leg in. Let's see if we can isolate just the movement of your right femur and your right hip joint. So make some circles with your knee. Especially in these preliminary exercises, it's not always a bad idea to close your eyes and focus more on what's moving in your body, how it's affecting your mind, how it's affecting your breathing. Let that circle go the other way. If you have a lot of physical sensation, that will be the thing you notice most. If this doesn't do much for your hip, if you have a lot of mobility, you can focus more on your breathing matching the movement. So maybe inhaling a circle, exhaling a circle, and then the next time you're in, hold onto your right knee, lift your head and shoulders up to your right knee, press your left heel down into the ground. So you're really just focusing on one knee coming in and one thigh elongating. And then slowly let your head down, bring your left knee in, extend your right leg, and we'll do the same thing. So you're moving your left hip. So maybe the first thing to look for is how does this hip feel and how is that different from the other hip? And if it is, will that affect how you move today? Switch directions. And again, if you're one of those people who feels nothing in your hip as you do this, you can use this warm-up as an opportunity to move into deeper breath or even move towards Ujjayi breathing, where you feel a deep abdominal contraction every time you exhale. One more breath in circle. Bring your left knee all the way in, lift your head up, get a little abdominal contraction, lengthen through your right leg. This time, keep your torso up. Bring your right knee in so you have both of your shins in. And if you're comfortable rolling up, roll on up. If you need to roll over to your side to lift, do that. And sit with your legs crossed. Put your hands on your thighs. And let's see how our spine moves seated. So a little seated cat-cow. Seated cat-cow can be as gentle or as muscular as you want it to. So you can really lift up through your sternum, pull your shoulder blades back, feel a lot of activity in your upper back, or you could feel a little gentler. And then when you pull back, instead of dropping your low spine to the ground, think of pulling your navel straight back in a horizontal plane. So it's more abdominal contraction and less collapse. Inhale to lift your chest. Exhale, reach back. One more time, inhale. Exhale, pull back, deep abdominal contraction. And then inhale to sit in a pretty neutral seat, but keep some abdominal energy there. Take a deep breath in, reach your arms up. On the exhale, take your hands forward and come onto hands and knees. So I am going to, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to focus on modifying the vinyasa, just to remind everyone that we all have a choice of how to take a vinyasa. So the first modification could be keeping your hands down
and your knees down. And taking it through Ashtha Pranam. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's easier, it's just different. So your hips reach back like you're in a quarter dog. Elbows bend, head dives down. I'm still not touching the ground with my torso. My torso lifts before my hips drop, and then maybe my hips would lower and I'm in a low cobra. So that's, yeah. I think that feels amazing on the spine. And then I could lower all the way down. Press up to hands and knees, and push back to a child's pose or a down dog. Let me just check this waiting room. And then the next variation, of course, is down dog, rippling forward to high plank. And then from high plank, lowering to knees and taking Ashtha Pranam. And looking down and pressing up and back. And then the more Ashtanga influenced, reaching forward to a high plank, lowering to low plank, lifting to up dog, not dropping your head back. I know that Ashtanga teaches us to do that, but really most of us don't need that mobility in our cervical spine. And then belly lifts, feet are flat, down dog. So let's take one more of those little circles, however you want to do it. It could be the Ashtanga version, or knees to the ground, reaching through, and pressing up and back. And then hold down dog or child's pose. And try to do what you don't always do. So if you always take down dog as a very active pose, relax a little, feel what it feels like as a stretch. If you always take it as a stretch, stay still, push back through your heel, engage your quads, feel it as a muscular movement. So just to remind yourself that there's potential for variation in down dog. Rise up onto your toes, stretch out your feet, get your heels as high as you can, and then bend your knees. Maybe your heels get a little higher, your hips go back even more. Straighten your legs, then drop your heels. Now soften knees, walk feet to hands slowly. When you're at the top, hang in a ragdoll, bend your knees, and decide if you need your hands for support or if you're just gonna roll up and feel all that movement through your spine. So once you're up, standing, again, remind yourself that standing, we default to these easy poses, right? How much do we stand during the day? So we have to have an automatic stance, but there's potential here. You could be pressing into your feet a little more. You could be pulling up on your quads a little more. If you hyperextend your knees like you and I do, we could kind of rotate our thighs out a little more. Not our natural, or not my natural way of standing, but there's a lot of possibility here, right? Notice what you do with your pelvis. Do you tilt your pelvis forward? Do you tuck your pelvis? Try to elongate. And then keeping yourself pretty still from the ribs down, take a breath in, maybe your sternum lifts. So the belly has to stay really engaged for your sternum to lift. So look up a little, Jane B. Let your shoulders pull back. And then take your arms wide, snow angel arms. Fold through a flat back or through round. And then hang for a breath. Inhale, flat back, long spine. Exhale, hands to the ground, step or float back. And think about the vinyasa. Move through the vinyasa the way your body needs it today. Not the way you feel conditioned to take it, but the way your body needs it right now. In down dog, feet stay parallel, hips stay square. So no flaring of the hip, right leg lifts. Just hold your right leg lifted, take a couple breaths, feel the stretch in the back of your left leg. One more breath in. On the exhale, articulate your spine forward, bring your knee to your nose, stay round in your spine. And then take your right leg straight back, hips stay square. Yeah. Right knee's gonna come to the outside of your right shoulder, spine rounds to get you forward, but then it straightens once you're there. So the plank with your knee in, beautiful. And then spine rounds to take your leg back, down dog split. Knee goes over to the left, getting a little rotation, a little oblique contraction. And leg lift high. Knee comes back into your nose. This time your right foot steps forward. Come up onto your fingertips, square your hips, lift your chest forward a little bit. Pull your right hip back a little, yeah. And pull your traction down with your left toes, pulling them forward so you feel a little stronger in your left quad. Keep that strength in your arms, plant your left hand, take your right arm out to the side and up without flaring your hips, right? So in the studio here, everyone is looking great, all perfect hips. I'm sure you all are at home. Right arm overhead, right hand to the ground. Right foot steps back, hold plank, a couple breaths. Recognize your belly engaged, soften your elbows. This is how your body should feel the whole time you're lowering down into low plank. So if you take a vinyasa from here, do you feel this strong? If you feel like you're collapsing, maybe you take it to your knees. Down dog. Hips square, left leg lifts. Hips don't flare. Hold 3 breaths, stretching out your right leg. Around your spine, pull knee into nose. And around your spine to take leg high again. Left toes turn out to the side, knee comes to the left elbow. And back. And comes over to the right. And in the oblique contraction, we hold a little longer. So really lift your knee up towards your ribs, yeah. And foot back. Knee to nose, footsteps forward. Square hips, left hip pulls back, right toes pull forward. So some of you are just really sort of muscular to begin with, and you don't need to remind your muscles to turn on. Those of us who are more flexible than strong naturally, we need to really feel that leg engagement before we twist. And then left arm up. And here with your left arm up, reach up through your fingertips, pull down through your shoulder blades. So make sure that your upper back is working to hold your arm up. Arm overhead, left hand to the ground. Your right foot's gonna step forward, so don't step back. Just step forward. Feet are pretty close together, knees bend, hips go back. Push into your feet and pull the mat apart a little. Make sure your hamstrings and your glutes are turned on. Arms reach back, airplane arms. Torso could lift so you're hovering parallel to the ground or anywhere to perpendicular. So you have 90 degrees of possibility where you want your torso to hang. Anywhere between parallel and perpendicular. One more breath in. On the exhale, stand tall, reach your arms up. Take another breath in, lift high. Exhale, still angel your arms, but keep your torso up. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Reach your knuckles back. Lift your sternum up. If you have the range of motion, make a circle one direction slowly with your knuckles. Yep. And circle the other way. See if you can keep your chest this broad and slowly release the interlacing of your fingers. Take a breath in, reach your arms up. And exhale, dive. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step or float back. Move through vinyasa, so whatever variation of plank, spinal extension, and down dog. Right leg lifts, hip stays square. So I'm gonna do those 3 abdominal contractions again. You can certainly skip them if you need. So knee into nose, that's an exhale. Inhale, foot high. Exhale, knee to the right. Inhale, foot high. Exhale, knee to the left. Inhale, foot high. Exhale, foot steps forward. Lift up crescent warrior. So crescent warrior high or crescent warrior with your knee down. It doesn't have to be easier with your knee down. It's just different. It's a little different stretch. You can work on squaring your hips. Take one more breath in. Circle your arms back. So always working that chest stretch. And then hands come forward. Step back to a high plank. Take a vinyasa or take a pause. From down dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, knee lifts. Exhale, knee to the left. Inhale, foot lifts. Exhale, knee to the right. Inhale, leg lifts. Exhale, step forward. Crescent warrior, knee up or down. So things to look for in crescent warrior other than balance. Is your back hip pulling forward? Is your front foot pulling back? So if you feel your legs working, those two things are probably happening. Arms can be up as long as your shoulders don't run forward. If your shoulders run forward, take your arms back. We'll all open arms out to the sides and back. Hands forward. Step back. Take your vinyasa or take a pause. So ways to pause. You can pause and rest in a child's pose, or you can pause and work strength by holding a plank and even pulling your toes towards the heels of your hands, which makes that more intense. So let's all practice that. Come forward to a plank. Soften your elbows. Pull the heels of your hands back towards your toes. Feel your toes pull towards your hands. You should feel your abs fire up a little more. And then down dog. And that could be done on forearms as well. Rise up onto your toes, bend your knees, stretch out. We're gonna jump forward to Malasana. So you don't wanna jump your feet wide. You'll step 1 foot at a time. Widen your hands. Hips drop. So if your knees are roughly as broad as your shoulders, really push them out. If your knees are like out in center split position, push your knees into your arms. So decide what you need. Strength or mobility. I mean, we all need both, but which direction is your balance today? If you'd like to take this into an arm balance, please do. If you would prefer to not take this into an arm balance, we'll just hold and take a twist. So right arm blocks right knee, left arm lifts. And returning to center, left arm blocks left knee, right arm lifts. If you're in crow, think about jumping back. Think about jumping back and taking a vinyasa. Yeah, so when you jump back, do it again. Like really glue your legs together. You know, you're here in crow, and think of the energy that takes your legs back as magnets pulling your knees together. Yeah. Right? It feels a little different. And then we'll all step forward with feet wide, as if we were in crow, and hang in a slightly wider fold. So your feet could be as wide as the mat right now. Yeah, you're perfect. And you might feel a strong inclination to take your torso side to side. That usually means you would benefit from taking your torso side to side, so it's the right thing to do. If you want to fold your arms and just hang and decompress your spine a bit, please do. Your hips can move a little side to side. So I'm not going to name names out there in ether space, but if you took a long bike ride this weekend or a long run, move your hips here a little. And then soften knees, let your spine roll up if you need to take weight into your legs too. All right, at the top, feet can come back together. Shoulders roll back. Arms reach up. Fully as works for your back. So if this like big dive is too much, bend your knees. Hands to shins, flat back. Weight into hands, step or float back through vinyasa as feels good in your body. Feet about, or big toes about 4 inches apart, behind you, hips stay square, right leg lifts, breath in. Okay, the option this time is to don't move nobody step forward yet. Your right leg is up. You could step your foot forward and take a lizard lunge, or you could do that 3-part abdominal work. So if you're gonna take the lizard lunge, step your right foot forward, wide of your hands, and hold. This is stretch work. This is mobility. You wanna do the strength, your right leg is high, you take a breath in, exhale, knee to nose, inhale, foot high. Exhale, knee to the right, inhale, foot high, exhale, knee to the left, foot high, and now the foot goes forward to the right of your right hand, lizard lunge. So at the moment, you might be up, your back knee could be up, and you're on your hands. If you can lower to your forearms, lower to your forearms. And if you'd like to lower your back knee, you may. Nobody has to do anything. And this becomes more of a stretch because as your knee lowers, you can lift your back foot, reach back and grab your foot and get a little more left quad stretch. Your legs are in a nice, warm position where you can work a little more length, so the rest of the practice has a little more mobility. And if you had your leg up the whole time, you're working great strength in your quad. Okay. From lizard lunge, if you're on your forearms, press up onto your hands. Take your right foot back, you're in a plank. You can hold plank, take vinyasa, or take a child's pose. We meet in down dog. Left leg lifts. If you want to go right into the lizard lunge, your left foot steps forward and you wait. Otherwise, knee to nose, foot high, knee to the left, foot high, knee to the right, foot high, left foot wide of left hand, back knee up or down. You're on your hands or on your forearms. So take a few breaths and feel something. It could be a stretch, it could be work. Know that you're getting something out of this time. Okay, we're not stepping back this time. I didn't forget this on the other side, we're just moving into something else. So with your left foot forward, left toes turn to the left, and your right heel drops. So you're in a side plank. Yes. Correct. That's right. So you're in a twist. Chest lifts, hips push up, arm goes overhead, arm circles and reaches up again. Yeah, nice, that's good. However you want to move your shoulders so that you feel like full rotator cuff movement. The choreography doesn't matter, but the joint mobility does. Left hand down, toes face forward. So options here are you could step back and step forward, or you could jump switch. The jump switching has a slight cognitive component, not just flexibility, so you have to get your body used to it. Right toes turn out, left heel drops, right arm up. Hips high, push your shoulder back. You stay in the posture, I'm coming out of it so you can hear me talk. Just think about your top shoulder. Make it circle somehow that works for you. It doesn't have to look like anybody else. You just want to know that your shoulder, now that it's a little warmer, can do that whole thing. Nice. And then right hand down, right toes turn forward. If you felt like you were on your way to getting that jump switch and didn't quite do it, you could try it a couple more times. You could take a couple jump switches just for fun. And when you're ready, you'll land back, take vinyasa or child's pose. My friend in wrist discomfort here in the studio is taking a wrist pose. So if your wrists are bothering you, you can do that as well. Otherwise, you meet in down dog. Yeah, so there are lots of ways to stretch your wrists. You can turn your fingers back towards you with your nails up, or you can turn your nails down so palms are up, fingers pointing back towards you. All right, if you're not stretching out your wrists, go ahead and step or jump your feet forward. We're going to take feet a little wider, hip distance apart, for Pada Hastasana. So grab your big toes here, lift to a flat back, keep your back long. As you fold forward, don't let think of your navel as not moving. Imagine rounding your spine over your navel. So there's actually more low back stretch. Elbows point out to the sides. And your head hangs. So you are in Pada Hastasana. Shake out your head. And then lift to a flat back. Release your hands. Pada Hastasana. Did I say Pada Hastasana last? That was Pada Hastasana. This is Pada Hastasana. Palms and hands under your feet. Your toes are up on your wrists. Flat back again. And fold. Shake your head out. You don't have, so you're relaxing part of your body here, but your legs can still be engaged. You can still be really hyperextending your knees so that your quads pull up on your kneecaps. You could be pushing your feet into your hands and pulling your hands up against your feet so your biceps are engaged. If you're doing both of those muscular actions, you will feel more stretch in your low back. And then release your hands. Soft knees, feet stay wide. I mean, as wide as your hips, not super wide, but wide. And lift up to Utkatasana again. So lifting to Utkatasana, hold. Your feet are wide. Spread your toes and then press them back down. So your feet are totally in contact with the ground. Toes and heels. You're sort of in the ski jumper position. Arms are reaching back. And then on an inhale, stand all the way up, arms overhead, and exhale, fold all the way. Inhale to a flat back. Weight into your hands, step or float back, move through Vinyasa. In down dog, pedal your feet for a moment. And then keeping your hips square, reach your right leg high. Bring your knee into your nose. We're not doing the whole 3-part ab work now. Right foot steps forward, rise up, warrior 2. Press into your feet and then pull your heels towards each other. So just by thinking that, you should feel back quad engage a little more, front hamstring engage a little more. Belly pulls in, spine is long, arms are reaching, flip your front palm. Reach back, gradient warrior. Push into your front knee a little more. Reach back with your top fingertips a little more, and then straighten your front leg. Reach forward, don't fold yet. Remember the good old days when I could actually grab your arm, and I'd pull you forward, and you'd pull your hips back. You get really long there, and then fold, triangle pose. So many of us have learned triangle differently. I like the triangle with a little bit of rotation. So you're pulling your front hip back, your navel's pointing down a little bit, so there is a little rotation in your spine. And then your top hand, push it forward isometrically. So just engage your top arm a little more. Reach forward through your arm, get that stretch in your side body. Yep. And if you have both hands up, both hands lower, if you just had your left hand up, left hand lowers. Both hands frame your front foot. Back foot steps in just a tiny bit so that you can revolve your triangle. So left hand stays down, right arm reaches out to the side and up, yeah. And keep pulling your right hip back and your chest forward. So as your right hip pulls back, you want to not let your chest round forward. And now top arm does that same sort of isometric push forward so you feel the top arm. Let's take 3 more deep breaths. Right arm reaches forward, both hands down. Take a little pause in pyramid pose, pulling your forehead towards your right shin. Your arms here, a little acrobatics here in the studio. Fingertips can walk back, or you can reach your hands forward as you pull in. They're very, or not very, they're pretty different sensations, so maybe we all try them both. Hands pulling forward is more length on the front leg, on the front of the front leg, so hands pulling back is more hamstring and back. Hands frame the right foot, left heel spins up, right foot steps back. You take vinyasa or whatever you're doing in place of vinyasa. When you land in down dog, remember that variation, maybe even work through it. So feel that like really relaxed down dog, and then feel the strong down dog. Left leg lifts, left foot steps forward, warrior 2. Feet pull together. Front hamstring, back quad. Fingertips reach, shoulder blades pull in. Everybody bend their elbows slightly and feel like you're resisting your elbows coming in more, so feel that work in your arms, and then slowly lengthen your arms without letting go of that engagement. Flip front palm, reach back, radiant warrior. Push into your front foot to straighten your front leg. Hips start moving back, arm reaches forward, you stay with arms parallel to the ground for a couple breaths. And left hand lowers. Hips face down a little bit and ribs open to the side wall. Top arm active. So scan your body, know that you're set up in the right posture anatomically. And then take your attention to your breathing. Observe 3 full rounds of breath. Right hand lowers. Back foot steps forward and to the right a little bit so that you can revolve your warrior. Right hand down. Spine reaches forward and then you twist to the left. Keep pulling your left hip back. Push your left hand forward a little bit so there's some action in that arm. Slowly lower your front hand, or your top hand, and transition to pyramid. So there's always the possibility, I mean, most of our practice is gonna be a pretty linear progression from our past practice. But we can pick a posture or two every practice to try a variation of. So if you always walk your hands back, walk your hands forward. If you always walk your hands forward, walk your hands back. And relax the stretch, hands frame foot. Foot steps back. You take a vinyasa or you take a pause. If you're taking a vinyasa, be attentive. This is about the right time to remind ourselves not to autopilot. Okay, we're going to take a 5-breath pause. Pause can be working or not working. So you can take a child's pose, lower down onto your knees and sit. You can pull out to a plank and make it much more active. Whatever you do, I want you to focus on symmetry in your body. So whatever plank you're in or seat you're in, look at your elbows. Are they, like, is the line between your elbows parallel to the line between your toes? If you're in the room, other than JA in the back who's intentionally doing asymmetrical poses, I can tell you guys are good. You guys are like in really good alignment. So stay where you are. If you're down on your forearms, pull your elbows towards your toes. Like fire that up. Make that the, you know, like if it's rest, make it really restful. And if it's work, make it intense. We like pace ourselves in our practice, and this is a moment where we sort of go out of our pace. And for those of you who've been in a plank, pause. So that could be a child's pose or take a vinyasa to sort of work out of it. If you are in a child's pose, roll yourself up. And we'll meet in down dog. An opportunity to hop here. So this is how it's gonna go. Either you'll step forward or you'll lift your right leg and take a few hops to bring your left toes forward. So you can hop, hop. So left foot is forward for standing Hanumanasana. I'm gonna cue it for not being in it. So your left foot is forward, your right leg is, your right foot, I should say, is pointing up. So for today, square your hips and bend your right knee as much as possible, not as much as possible, as much as you need to get your right foot facing the ceiling. So go ahead and bend your, yeah. Okay, so if I were assisting, I would be holding your hips square and you would be pushing your right foot to the ceiling as much as you can, no matter how much your right knee needs to bend. Yeah, and then your hands move. So, and then your hands can come to your left ankle or one at a time. Yeah. So what you're doing by doing it this way is you're working on square hips as opposed to straight legs. And you're really, if your right knee is bent, you're doing a lot of hamstring work. That's very beautiful. You've been there a long time. All right, so slowly take your hands to the ground. Bend your standing leg to take your right foot back. You'll be in a lunge. And come back into down dog split. So your right leg is high again. I'm sorry, your left leg is high again. Left leg is high again. And this time flare your hip. So flare your hip, stretch out your standing leg. Yeah. And bring your left leg all the way forward for Kapotasana, pigeon pose. Sorry, if you're in Ashtanga, it's not Kapotasana. I don't know why this same name got applied to two various different postures. But here we're a pigeon. Yeah, so if you have tight hips, You out there have tight hips, runners and cyclists. Walk your hands with your left leg forward. Try to walk your hands towards the left. So you're trying to pull your right hip down. Your torso may not go all the way down. Your hip may not go all the way down. But you're allowing the right side body and the hip flexors on your right side to stretch. And you can certainly lower your torso if that's easy for you. If it's comfortable on your neck, let your head hang. And then slowly bring your weight back into your hands. You're going to try to get your front leg back into that lizard lunge. We've already been there, but we're all going to take it as a stretch this time. So lizard lunge, your left foot is wide of your left hand and your toes are turning out. So turn your toes out, let your knee fall out and pull your chest forward. It's just a continuation of that hip flexor stretch on the left side. Both hands down. Both feet or knees back. Vinyasa to neutralize or cat-cow to neutralize, finding some symmetry. If you're on hands and knees, it could be hip circles. We move on from down dog. So when you are ready, come up to down dog. Either you step your right foot forward or you lift your left leg and you hop. For standing Hanumanasana, which is this, so it looks like this. But I'm narrowing it. So you're standing, your right foot is totally on the ground. Your left foot is facing the ceiling. And your left knee bends as much as it needs to. Because you are trying to keep your hips square to the ceiling. Or square, well, yes, square to both the floor and the ceiling. So if I had a yoga block to put on your sacrum, it would be in a parallel plane to the floor. And then you take one hand or both to your right ankle as that is accessible. So it probably feels like you've been here longer because I'm talking less, but I'm timing it, it's correct. And now slowly you can take your hands to the ground. Step your lifted leg back and bring your front foot over for pigeon pose. So you're in pigeon, right leg forward. And again, if your left hip is nowhere near the ground, then be even more interested in walking your hands to the right. Because if your left hip is down, walking to the side won't probably add much stretch. And then if you can lay flat, you lay flat. And if your head can hang, you let your head hang. Hopefully you are not in total agony in pigeon pose and you can relax your face and relax your arms and you're in a pretty undemanding shape. You're not on your hands yet. Press up onto your hands. Take your weight back just enough to get your right foot to the right of your right hand. and you'll come into pigeon pose on this side. So your right foot is to the right of your right hand and your right toes are turning out. And your hips go a little side to side. Your left knee could lower. This is just, you'll see where you feel hip stretch. And it's not uncommon to feel it all on one side, whether your right foot is forward or your left foot is forward. Some people will always feel their left hip. Some people will always feel their right hip, no matter which hip is forward. So give this about 3 more breaths. And then you can slowly step your right foot back. Take a vinyasa or take a child's pose or a cat-cow. And whatever shape you're in, notice what parts of your body speak to you. So if you're still taking vinyasa, does every vinyasa feel better because your back is loosening up? Or does every vinyasa feel a little more tender in your wrists? Or your low back, or your neck, or your knees? Okay. If you are comfortable jumping through, you're gonna jump through, otherwise you're gonna walk your feet forward, cross your legs, and take your legs forward for staff. So I have friends who think jumping through is just nonsense and has no advantage. I think that tends to be long-legged runners and cyclists. And it's just because the proportions are different. I have kind of short legs, so jumping through is not nearly the challenge for me. But just know thyself. Okay. Staff pose. You could start this by holding onto your legs and lifting your chest, and then lowering your hands. This requires a very specific proportion of arm to spine. So if you don't have it, be on your fingertips or take your hands on blocks. So my legs are active. I'm engaging my quads. I'm trying to get my heels off the ground. Which again, for those of us who are hyperextenders, no problem. And then lift up through the crown of your head and tuck your chin a little. So you're actually stretching out your cervical spine. And slowly relax. So now you're just sitting. It's going to look like I'm faking Ashtanga for the next 3 minutes. And then it's going to go back to not faking Ashtanga. But for now, that was Paschimottanasana. No, that was step. Cross your legs. If you want to take a vinyasa, take your hands forward, take a vinyasa. If you don't want to take a vinyasa, you sit. Maybe you sit and stretch out your neck. And then if you took vinyasa, you jump through 2 staff, but 4 Paschimottanasana. So lift yourself up again. You could think about, there are 2 ways to approach this. Like in traditional yoga, we hinge and there's almost extension in your low back. If you never do anything in flexion, kind of pull your navel back and round forward a little more. You wouldn't want to round forward habitually, but if you are always hinging, give yourself the opportunity to round. And I don't know what you guys do the rest of the week. So like if you're a big cyclist and you feel like you're like maybe too prone to flexion, or if you do a ton of Pilates and you're always doing flexion, then hinge. But if you have perfect posture, if you like look beautiful as a runner and your chest is always up and you're, then take the flexion. Quads are working regardless of what your spine is doing. Your quads are strong. If you're in forward flexion, round up. If you're in a hinge, scoop up. Legs crossed, you sit, or you take vinyasa. Purvottanasana. So if you know what Purvottanasana is, like waterfall, you can go ahead, mudslide, whatever it's called, whatever people call it, lots of things, you can go on into it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, my hands are behind me, my fingers are facing forward. The modification is knees bend, and you lift your hips like a crab walk position. Full Purvottanasana, legs are straight, toes go towards the ground, hips lift. Head is up. So I know, yeah, if you learn to drop your head back, you're an adult, do as you will. I will draw your leg to look up. And then feet flex. Hips up. Legs cross opposite leg in front. So cross your legs the wrong way. Take vinyasa or stay seated. If you're in vinyasa, check in with your neck. Check in with your shoulders. Janu Shirsasana. Left leg out. Right sole of foot pushes against your left quad. Create some contact. Really push your foot against your leg. Yeah, you have your knees up. Push it. Like you want to. This is we don't do a lot of like inward pressure postures. So push your foot into your leg. Push your leg back into your foot, and then reach for your left foot. There's a little bit of rotation in your spine. Slow your breathing down. Try to make your exhale as intentional and long as your inhale. And slowly lift yourself up. We're going to switch legs without the vinyasa in between. Push your left foot into your right quad. Push your right leg back into your left foot. And reach for your right shin. Slowly sit up. Take a vinyasa or have a seat. If you're not taking a vinyasa, we're going to move right over towards heroes. So knees together, feet wide, sitting between your feet. Would you like a block? Okay. All right, so you can sit right here, or you could start to hinge back. I feel like I'm way too repetitive, but here I am repeating myself. It's a quad stretch, not a back bend, so keep tucking your tailbone and trying to get your spine down. And on Instagram, I have to check the clock. I think my hour is running out, so I will stop this and I will restart it. So if you want the last 15 minutes, oh, I said that perfectly. My timer just went on Instagram. So I'm going to leave you in Virasana. For those of you on Instagram, I'm going to stop this video and restart, so you're welcome to sign back on, but stay in Virasana for another 10 breaths. Bye. Okay, so for those of you in the studio, stay in the shape. See if you can pull your navel back a little more and push your knees into the ground a little more. And then lift up through that shape that feels very, very strong. Take a moment in Virasana at the top, or like still with Virasana legs. Slowly take your weight over here, slowly take your weight forward. Maybe reach back through one foot at a time. Everyone feels this in slightly different joints. And you will either take a vinyasa and land in bridge setup, or just move your legs around so you're ready for bridge pose. So if you'd like to, if your body tells you it needs to do something before bridge, yeah, a ball or a block. So like if you need to take your knees side to side or something before bridge, that's fine. And once you're ready to move into bridge, this is how we'll do it. I'll cue it as 3 separate bridges. If you want to hold it all as one bridge, hold it all as one. It would be really long, it'll be really strengthening. If it doesn't hurt your back, that's fine. But feet are hip distance apart. Your fingertips can touch your heels or close to your heels. You articulate to lift your spine. You only lift as high as feels good in your back. Once your hips are off the ground, your gaze does not move. You're looking at the ceiling the whole time. Your arms can be pressing down into the ground, so you feel your arms engage, or you could have your fingers interlaced. If you have your fingers interlaced, your pinkies are pressing down into the ground. Your feet are pressing down, heels and toes, inside and outside edges. I hope you feel some work in your glutes as well as your hamstrings. You could tuck your tailbone a little more to get more glute activation. You can stay up here the whole time, or you can slowly release your arms, articulate down. So your choice. Please stay if you want, or take the articulation to lower, take a breath in at the bottom, and exhale, articulate back up. So this is the second third of bridge for those of you who are staying up. This is second bridge for those of you who are taking 3 distinct ones. Okay, this time, everyone who's up in bridge is going to lift their heels off the ground. So you're just on your toes. So you feel a little more in your calves. With your heels off the ground, you may be able to lift your spine a little higher. Make sure your knees aren't falling out to the sides. You want your femurs tracking in parallel lines. And then if you're staying in bridge the whole time, lower your heels, but stay up in bridge. If you want to take a pause, or exhale to articulate down, take a breath in at the bottom, and exhale to articulate back up. And for this third round of bridge, we're going to take a few breaths, one leg each side. So right knee pulls in, right toe to the ceiling, hold for 3 breaths. Right foot down, the left leg lifts, 3 breaths. Left foot lowers. Arms out to the sides. Lower your spine. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep your head down. Take your feet as wide as the mat. Take your arms out to a T. And take slow windshield wipering of knees side to side. Okay, the next time your knees are center, keep your feet wide on the mat. Let your knees knock in towards each other. And just take a couple breaths. So the rest of the class is going to be shoulder stand, plow, sitting up for one wide angle pose, and then Shavasana. So if there's something you really want to throw in there or avoid, you can. And I don't, as you guys probably know by now, I don't practice shoulder stand while you guys are, because I like to see you if you're live, and I want you to hear me if you're not live. Okay, so bring your feet back towards each other. Also, I think as you guys know, I like to come into plow to get into shoulder stand, but you don't have to do it that way. But I do take shoulder stand first. Once you're in, I also get rid of my ponytail for shoulder stand and plow. And once your hips are off the ground, you're looking up at your feet or your knees the whole time. So you want to try to avoid looking side to side. And unless you are intentionally doing something other than straight legs and shoulder stand, glue your legs together and reach for the ceiling. The more active your midline is muscularly, the more you are supporting your trunk and the less you are collapsing into your elbows. And the stronger you're getting abdominally. You should never feel dizzy or short of breath or compromised in your breathing in any way. In any pose in yoga, but it's most likely to happen in shoulder stand. So be aware of that. So legs are active, they're reaching up. The only time that's not true is if you try variations of Padmasana or Eagle, or if you do splits and shoulder stand, things like that. Which are all fun variations, you can play around with those. Getting into lotus is super fun. I mean, it takes time, and some days your hips are up for it, and some days they're not. And when you are ready, when you feel like you've done what you want to do in shoulder stand, take your legs over. So my little dip back into Ashtanga, as you go into plow, let the first plow be active. So whether you grab your feet or not, that's great if you can do that, but do keep your hips high, even if you can't grab your feet. Nice. So you're using your core strength to keep your hips as high up as possible. And then if you've been taking a more active variation of plow, you can take a more restful one, something more like deaf man's pose with your knees bending towards your ears. JA is doing a very good imitation of a 3-year-old getting her legs back and pedaling, like the control that, or no, like a 6-month-old, like that. Who does that as an adult still? That was very nice. Right, and when you're ready to come out of plow, you come out slowly and you take the counter pose that works for you. So a lot of, especially if you were trained in Ashtanga, you come out and you go into fish. A lot of people who didn't learn fish as their standard adult practice come out and come into Supta Baddha Konasana, so knees out, soles of feet together, back a little more flatter on the ground. And then I guess I should tell the Ashtangas in the room if they want to come out through Chakrasana. Let's see here. Backwards somersault. I'm definitely not doing that. All right. When you feel ready to sit up, we're going to sit up for one last posture. So sit up for a wide leg straddle. We didn't really do any big straddles today. So take a nice straddle. And we're going to take it, for a full minute and a half. So engage your quads, flex your feet, walk your hands or elbows forward, and keep pulling forward with your chest unless you happen to if your whole torso, so if you're going to be on your belly, then you let your head down. If your torso is still up, maybe you keep your head up. But really, you guys know yourselves. I think everyone who's on Instagram is a pretty self-aware person. Everyone in this room is a self-aware person. But this is a nice point in the practice to let your attention become more internal. I am going to speak far less for the next few minutes. stay in the straddle. Keep your quads engaged, keep your heels pointing out and your toes pointing up. It is 11:14, so I'm gonna run probably 3 minutes over. If you can't run over, come into your Shavasana, or you can make your way out. If you're okay running a couple minutes over, take a few more breaths in this shape. Maybe shake your head a little. Know if there's something you need to do before Shavasana. So, if there's a posture, a stretch that your body missed, go ahead and take it. And if you're in Shirsasana, I'll tell you you want 2 minutes? I'll give you a 1 minute call for Shirsasana and a 2 minute call. And then I'll say that in the next minute or so, and I'll tell you in that minute verse, in the next minute or so, you'll start to make your way to Shavasana. So if you noticed in your wide angle that you really needed a little more rotation, or that your wrists were sore, then you took that extra shape, that extra stretch. And you're 1.5 minutes into Shirsasana. If you want another minute, you can certainly have it. Everybody's about 8 breaths away from Shavasana. Okay, and now we're all moving towards Shavasana if you're not there already. Your legs are extended, your arms are extended. And I'll be quiet for about another minute. Before you come out of Shavasana without even bringing movement into your feet, notice yourself breathing. Feel whatever subtle movement there is with your breath. And before bringing stretch back into your body, take a moment to notice the state of your physical body. To notice the general state of your mind, of your mood. And if you are in studio and you'd like to have a 5-minute meditation after this practice, you can sit up and do that. And those people who choose not to do that will get up and move, so we'll let them move. They'll move quietly, but we'll be forgiving of any small sounds that are made. So if you're watching me on Instagram, thank you. I'll be back in 10 minutes for yin, if you want to come back for yin. And I'll be posting my new schedule, the when and the where, on Instagram, maybe later today. I know it, but I didn't post it yet. Right, so thank you very much for joining me online. Bye, guys. See you later. And thank you for joining me in studio. If you haven't my Instagram is Natalie Wetzel. I'm sorry, Natalie.wellness. And my name has an H in it, so it's NATHALIE.wellness.
It will be November 1st, but it's gonna be totally different, meaning, so I'm going to be teaching in Wynwood, this is the space I found. And it's all gonna be per class, no, I'm doing 2 series